Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to look at objects and methods that work upon those objects. As we already know, everything in Python is just an object. So we've had int objects, float objects, string objects and function objects. For int and float objects, the data that's contained by the object is the value associated with those ints or floats. For string objects, it's the sequence of characters, and for function objects, it's the Python code that executes that function. So when we define a new function, we're adding a name to the computer's dictionary, and that dictionary refers to the code, the Python code for that function. But there's also a lot more. Each class or type of object has a set of functions that operate on objects of that type, and these are called methods. When we want to invoke a method, there's a particular form of syntax, and that form is the object name, dot, so object name here is a variable name that refers to an object of a particular type. So object name, dot, and then the method name. And then there's the parentheses and a series of arguments, 0 or more arguments that we can pass into the function. This is roughly equivalent to calling a regular function, passing in the object as the first argument, and then the series of other arguments that we might pass in. But we'll see more about that later in the course. For the moment though, let's say we have some variable s that contains a string. This is an extreme string, let's say. Okay, so we can look at the content of s, it's a string, this is an extreme string. We can invoke a method, the methods provided by the class string, on this object by using the syntax s dot, so this is from the reference from s, invoke a particular type of method, and I happen to know that one of the methods defined for strings is find. So I'm saying find x, so I'm passing in an argument to the method find, defined for a string object, to say find me the location of x in this string. And what it's going to say is it's going to tell me that x occurs at 12 in the sequence of characters in this string. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Index 12 is the one that contains x. If I ask it to s.find and pass in z, well, in this case, the return value is going to be -1, where -1 signifies there is no z contained within this string. If I ask for s.find capital T, as you might expect, we see 0. The index at which we find T, capital T, within this string is at location index number 0. So we start counting at 0 in Python and in computer science generally. S.find of h is at location 1, and so on. Okay, so we have methods that are defined for the particular class of object, and these are essentially functions that are defined for that class. So, some of the methods that are defined for string include capitalize, find we just saw, lower, upper, strip, starts with, ends with, split, and some others as well. So there are many, and we can look at them all by using the command dir for the type of object we're looking at. So we can either do dir of s, because s refers to a string. It's going to give us a directory of all of the methods that are defined for this type of object, and you'll see there's a whole load of them. There's all these strange ones that begin with double underscores. We'll learn more about those later in the course, but we'll see also that find is in there. Okay, so we can see the one we've been using, the method find, is defined already. Okay, so I asked for dir of s. Okay, so that's going through the reference. It knows that the type of s is a string. Or I could have said dir str, and it would have directly given me the same information. Okay. So we have a lot of methods available to us within any particular class of object. So dir and help are useful utilities in finding out what's available for any particular class. Let's say I wasn't particularly interested in the find function, so having done dir of s, I've established that find is available, but I don't know if find is really what I want, so I can ask for more information by saying help for str.find. And now what I'm getting is specific information about the find method. So it's telling me that I have arguments that I can pass in to see if a particular substring occurs at a particular location. And I can specify the start and end locations, and it's telling me that these are optional. That's what those open and close square brackets are telling me. Okay, so we've got, because of docstrings essentially, this information comes from docstrings. Because of docstrings, we've got a lot of very useful built-in documentation associated with the methods and functions within the language. So as a simple example of using methods of the string object, imagine that we want to write a program to read a full name and break it into its components, 2 components only in this case, and then correctly capitalize each one and print a hi message at the start of them. So it's going to correctly handle mixed case. So if somebody types with the caps lock stuck on, the program's going to fix that for us. So we have the solution down here. It's introducing some concepts that we haven't really seen already and will be introduced more fully later in the course, but I think you'll get the idea anyway. So the first thing we do is we assign to full name the result of input, enter your full name. So we prompt the user and we retrieve whatever it is that they type and then press return with. What we're going to do is use or assign to pos of space the result of finding in that name the location of the space character. So that we're assuming that there's going to be a single space character that separates the 2 names. We'll then assign to first name the result of slicing. This is new, and this is not fully introduced here, but the idea here is we're going to be taking the substring of the full name that goes from index 0 up to, but not including, the position of the space, pos of space. We're then going to assign to last name the result of taking the string full name and indexing into it, retrieving everything from the position of space +1, so 1 after the space character, to the end. So when we have colon, nothing, that means all the way to the end. Again, these statements associated with slicing sequences, we'll see more on that soon. So don't worry too much if you don't fully get this right now. What that'll mean is we'll have first name referring to whatever the string for the first name was, and last name referring to whatever the string for the last name was. We're then going to assign to corrected first name the result of invoking the capitalize function on first name, and we'll make corrected last name the result of using the capitalize method on whatever the string is that's referred to from last name. So let's have a quick look at that capitalize function. Let's say I have a variable first name that has Andy in it, and second name has some messy mixed case. Okay, if I invoke the capitalize function on first name, whoops, there we go. What it's going to do is return a string object that is a nicely capitalized version of that. So what the capitalize function does is it makes sure that the first character is uppercase character and all the others are lowercase. And if we do second name dot capitalize, then it's doing the same thing for Coburn. Okay, so unsurprisingly, I think this program, when we run it, if I do Andy mess it up, COCKBURN, what we'll see is a nicely converted version of those 2 names. Okay, so some of the details of that program for now are essentially referring to the future, but hopefully you get at least the idea of using the capitalize function to correct the capitalization of the strings. That's it for now. In the next video, we'll briefly look at the format function, which is an extremely important function that operates again on strings. Thanks.